What happens when a beloved royal steps onto a morning talk show stage expecting a respectful conversation, only to face a barrage of personal attacks that cross every line imaginable? In just 36 seconds of uncomfortable silence after one particularly venomous comment, the entire atmosphere would shift from cordial to catastrophic, leading to one of the most shocking walkouts in British television history. The studio lights were bright that morning as Prince Harry settled into the curved sofa on the Lorraine Kelly show set. Alongside him sat two regular panelists, journalist Amanda Winters and television personality Marcus Reed. The audience applauded warmly as Lorraine Kelly took her seat across from them, her signature smile plastered across her face. "Welcome, welcome," Lorraine said, smoothing down her blazer. "So lovely to have you here, Your Royal Highness. Or should I say, just Harry now? I mean, you have been quite busy distancing yourself from all that, haven't you?" Harry smiled politely, though something flickered behind his eyes. "Good morning, Lorraine. Thank you for having me. I'm here to discuss the charitable work we've been doing with veterans." Yes, the charity." Lorraine waved her hand dismissively. "We'll get to that. But first, everyone wants to know about the real drama. The family drama. That's what gets people talking, isn't it?" Amanda Winters shifted uncomfortably in her seat, glancing at Harry with an apologetic expression. Marcus Reed cleared his throat, attempting to interject. "Perhaps we could start with the Veteran Initiative. It's really quite impressive what they've accomplished." "Marcus, darling." "I'm conducting this interview," Lorraine said sharply, not even looking at her fellow panelist. "Now, Harry, let's talk about your brother. You haven't spoken in how long? Must be difficult being cut off like that." Harry's jaw tightened slightly, but his voice remained measured. "Lorraine, I came here to highlight the important work being done for service members who've sacrificed so much for this country. That's what I'd like to focus on." "Oh, how convenient," Lorraine leaned back, crossing her arms. "You want to talk about sacrifice? Let's talk about the sacrifice your grandmother made, building a legacy, only to have you throw it away for what exactly? A Hollywood lifestyle?" The audience fell silent. Amanda's eyes widened in shock. "Lorraine, that's really not appropriate," she said firmly. "Amanda, please," Lorraine snapped. "I'm asking the questions the public wants answered. Harry, you have to admit, from the outside looking in, it appears rather selfish. You had everything handed to you on a silver platter, and you just walked away." Harry took a deep breath, his composure still intact. "With respect, Lorraine, you don't know the full story. No one does except those who lived it. What I can tell you is that every decision I've made has been to protect my family and to live authentically." "Authentically," Lorraine repeated, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "Is that what we're calling it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks more like a temper tantrum from someone who didn't want to do the work. Your father worked his entire life preparing for his role. Your brother continues to serve with dignity. And you just quit," Marcus Reed interjected again, his voice firmer this time. "Lorraine, I really think we need to steer this conversation back to the charity work. This is becoming uncomfortable." "Uncomfortable?" Lorraine turned to Marcus with a condescending smile. "Marcus, if you can't handle real journalism, perhaps you should step out. This is how we get to the truth." "This isn't journalism," Amanda said quietly but firmly. "This is an ambush." Lorraine ignored her, turning back to Harry. "Let's talk about money, shall we? You've made quite a fortune talking about how difficult your privileged life was. Book deals, television interviews, streaming contracts, all while complaining about the institution that gave you that platform in the first place. Don't you find that just a tad hypocritical?" Harry's hands, which had been resting calmly on his knees, now gripped the fabric of his trousers. "I've never complained about having privilege. What I've spoken about is mental health, the importance of breaking cycles of pain, and protecting the people I love from a system that can be harmful. Those are universal struggles." "Universal?" Lorraine laughed, a sharp, cutting sound. "Oh, please. Tell that to the single mother working 3 jobs who can't afford to feed her children. Tell her about your universal struggles in your mansion in California. I'm sure she'll be very sympathetic. Lorraine, that's completely out of line, Amanda said, her voice rising. He's here as a guest to discuss veterans' mental health services, and you're attacking him personally. I'm holding him accountable, Lorraine shot back. Something the press should have done a long time ago instead of tiptoeing around him. Harry, your mother would be ashamed of the way you've conducted yourself, using her memory to justify your choices when we all know she valued duty and service above all else. The 36 seconds of silence that followed were deafening. Harry stared at Lorraine, his face pale. Amanda's mouth dropped open. Marcus actually stood up from his seat. That is absolutely unacceptable, Marcus said loudly. You do not bring his mother into this. Lorraine, you've gone too far. Harry's voice, when he finally spoke, was quiet, but steely. My mother knew what it was like to be trapped in a system that didn't protect her. She knew what it was like to be hunted by cameras, to have her every move scrutinized, to be blamed for things beyond her control. She would understand exactly why I made the choices I did. Oh, here we go, Lorraine said, rolling her eyes dramatically. The victim narrative again. Poor Harry. So misunderstood. Let me ask you something. If life was so unbearable, why did you wait until you got married to leave? Interesting timing, wouldn't you say? What are you implying? Harry asked, his voice dangerously calm. I'm not implying anything, Lorraine said with a smirk. I'm stating the obvious. You were perfectly content being a royal prince, enjoying all the perks, until someone came along and convinced you that you deserved more. Or perhaps convinced you that the rules didn't apply to you. Amanda stood up now too, her face flushed with anger. Lorraine, stop. Just stop. This is disgraceful. Sit down, Amanda, Lorraine commanded. Both of you, sit down. This is my show. Not anymore, Marcus said firmly. I won't be part of this character assassination. Harry came here in good faith, and you've turned this into a personal attack. Lorraine laughed again, that same cruel sound. Oh, how noble of you, Marcus. Defending the poor prince. Should we all bow while we're at it? Harry remained seated, but every muscle in his body was tense. Lorraine, I came here to talk about veterans who are struggling with post-traumatic stress, with reintegration into civilian life, with feeling unseen and unheard. These are men and women who gave everything for their country, and they deserve support and resources. That's what I wanted to discuss. That's what matters. What matters, Lorraine interrupted, is that you're a hypocrite. You talk about service while abandoning your duties. You talk about mental health while causing your family immense pain. You talk about the media being intrusive while selling your story to the highest bidder. Do you have anything to say to that? I have plenty to say, Harry replied, his voice still controlled, but his eyes blazing. But I don't think you're actually interested in hearing it. You've already decided what narrative you want to push. I want the truth, Lorraine insisted. No, Harry said simply. You want a spectacle. You want me to break down or lash out so you can have your viral moment. You want to provoke me into saying something you can twist and use against me. That's not truth-seeking. That's exploitation. Lorraine leaned forward, her smile gone now, replaced with a cold stare. You think very highly of yourself, don't you? Walking in here, expecting everyone to just accept your version of events without question. Well, I'm not going to do that. Someone needs to say what everyone is thinking. You abandoned your country. You abandoned your family. And you abandoned your responsibilities. And now you want to come on television and be treated like a hero. It's pathetic. The audience gasped audibly. Amanda put her face in her hands. Marcus shook his head in disbelief. Harry stood up slowly, his movements deliberate and controlled. I don't need to be treated like a hero, Lorraine. I just expected to be treated with basic human decency. Clearly that was too much to ask. "Oh, sit down," Lorraine said dismissively. "Don't be so dramatic." "Dramatic?" Harry's voice was still quiet, but there was steel in it now. "You've spent the last 15 minutes attacking my character, my wife, my choices, and my mother's memory. And you're calling me dramatic for refusing to sit here and take it? If you can't handle tough questions, you shouldn't have come," Lorraine retorted. "This is the real world, Harry. Not your carefully controlled Netflix environment where everyone tells you what you want to hear." "Tough questions are fine," Harry said. "I've answered tough questions many times. But what you're doing isn't journalism. It's cruelty disguised as honesty. There's a difference." Lorraine stood up as well, her face flushed with anger now. "How dare you lecture me about journalism? I've been in this industry for decades. I've interviewed prime ministers, celebrities, royals. I don't need some spoiled prince telling me how to do my job. And I don't need some bitter talk show host projecting her own issues onto me," Harry replied calmly. "You're angry about something, Lorraine. I don't know what it is, and frankly, it's not my concern. But whatever you're dealing with, taking it out on me isn't going to fix it." The audience was completely silent now, watching the confrontation unfold with stunned expressions. Amanda had tears in her eyes. Marcus stood with his arms crossed, looking furious. "Bitter?" Lorraine's voice rose sharply. "I'm bitter? That's rich coming from someone who's made millions complaining about their life. You want to know what I think? I think you're weak. I think you couldn't handle the pressure, so you ran away. And now you're trying to rewrite history to make yourself look like some kind of brave hero instead of what you really are, which is a coward." Harry's face remained remarkably composed, though his jaw was clenched. "I've served my country in combat. I've seen things and done things that I hope you never have to experience. I've lost friends. I've carried their coffins. So if you want to call me a coward, that's your prerogative. But it says far more about you than it does about me." "Oh, please," Lorraine scoffed. "You're going to hide behind your military service now. That's convenient." "I'm not hiding behind anything," Harry said firmly. "I'm simply stating facts. You don't know me, Lorraine. You've never had a conversation with me before today. Everything you think you know about me comes from tabloid headlines and gossip columns. You've formed an opinion based on speculation and rumor, and now you're treating that opinion as fact. That's not just bad journalism. It's dangerous." "Dangerous?" Lorraine laughed mockingly. "The only thing dangerous here is your ego." Marcus finally stepped forward, positioning himself slightly between Harry and Lorraine. "That's enough. Lorraine, I've worked with you for 3 years, and I've never seen you behave this way. This is unprofessional. It's unkind, and it needs to stop." "Marcus, move," Lorraine commanded. "No," Marcus said simply. "I won't be complicit in this anymore." Amanda stood as well, moving to stand beside Marcus. "Neither will I. Harry, I'm so sorry. You deserved better than this." Lorraine looked at her two panelists with genuine surprise, as if she couldn't believe they were defying her. "You're both willing to throw away your careers for him?" "We're willing to stand up for basic decency," Amanda said quietly. "Something you seem to have forgotten about." Lorraine turned her attention back to Harry. Her eyes narrowed. "Look at you, collecting supporters like trophies. Is this how you operate? Play the victim until people feel sorry for you?" Harry shook his head slowly. "I'm not playing anything, Lorraine. I came here in good faith to discuss something I care deeply about. You turned it into something ugly. That's on you, not me." "Good faith," Lorraine repeated sarcastically. "You don't know the meaning of the phrase. Good faith is honoring your commitments. Good faith is putting duty before personal desires. Good faith is not throwing your family under the bus for money and fame." "I've never thrown my family under the bus," Harry said, his voice firm. "I've spoken my truth. That's not the same thing." "Your truth," Lorraine made air quotes with her fingers, her expression mocking. What a lovely modern concept. Everyone gets their own truth now, don't they? Facts don't matter anymore. Responsibility doesn't matter. All that matters is how you feel. Harry took a deep breath, and for a moment, it seemed like he might try one more time to salvage the conversation. But then Lorraine continued. You know what I think the real problem is? You're jealous. Jealous of your brother who's respected and admired. Jealous that he gets to be king someday, while you're just irrelevant, a footnote, in a cautionary tale about what happens when privilege meets weakness. That was it. The final straw. Harry's composure, which had been remarkable throughout the entire ordeal, finally showed cracks. Not in anger, but in disappointment. A deep, profound disappointment that was somehow more powerful than any outburst could have been. I pity you, Harry said quietly. I genuinely do. Because you clearly have so much anger inside you that you need to tear others down to feel better about yourself. That's a sad way to live, Lorraine. Don't you dare pity me, Lorraine snapped. I'm not the one who needs pity here. Everyone needs compassion, Harry replied. Even you. Especially you, actually. But I'm not going to stay here and be your verbal punching bag just so you can work through whatever you're dealing with. I'm done. He turned to leave, and Lorraine's voice followed him. That's right. Walk away. It's what you do best, isn't it? When things get hard, just walk away. Run back to your mansion and complain about how misunderstood you are. Harry paused, his hand on the back of the sofa. For a moment, everyone thought he might turn back around. The tension was unbearable, but instead he just shook his head and continued walking. You're proving my point, Lorraine called after him. You can't handle real conversation. You can't handle being challenged. Marcus stepped in front of Lorraine, blocking her view of Harry's exit. He handled himself with far more grace than you did. You should be ashamed. I should be ashamed? Lorraine's voice was incredulous. I'm doing my job. I'm asking the hard questions. No, Amanda said firmly. You were cruel. There's a difference between asking hard questions and being needlessly vicious. What you did today crossed every line of professional conduct. Harry reached the edge of the set, where producers were standing with shocked expressions. He didn't storm off. He didn't slam anything or make a scene. He simply removed his microphone pack with steady hands, placed it on a nearby table, and walked through the studio doors with his head held high. Back on the set, Lorraine stood in the middle of the stage, looking around at the silent audience, her two panelists, who were staring at her with undisguised disappointment, and the cameras that had captured every moment. Well, she said, trying to regain her composure and her signature smile. I suppose some people just can't handle honest conversation. Honest conversation? Amanda's voice was shaking now, whether from anger or emotion wasn't clear. Lorraine, what we just witnessed wasn't honest conversation. It was a character assassination. You made this personal from the very first question. You didn't give him a chance to discuss what he came here for. You ambushed him. Marcus nodded in agreement. I've been in television for 20 years, and I've never seen a host treat a guest with such obvious contempt. Every question was loaded. Every comment was designed to provoke. You weren't interested in dialogue. You wanted conflict. Lorraine's smile faltered. I was holding him accountable. For what? Amanda demanded. For making choices about his own life? For prioritizing his family's well-being? For speaking openly about mental health? None of those things require him to be held accountable to you or anyone else. He's a public figure, Lorraine argued. He's fair game. Being a public figure doesn't mean you forfeit your right to be treated with basic respect, Marcus said, and bringing his mother into it? That was unconscionable, Lorraine. You knew exactly what you were doing, and you did it anyway. The audience, which had been silent throughout the confrontation, began to murmur. Some people were standing up, clearly uncomfortable with what they had witnessed. A few were shaking their heads in disapproval. Lorraine looked out at her audience, and perhaps for the first time, she realized that the room wasn't on her side. She had expected them to rally behind her, to appreciate her tough questioning. Instead, They looked disturbed, disappointed. Some even looked angry. "Let's take a break," she said abruptly, her voice lacking its usual confidence. "We'll be right back after these messages." As soon as the cameras cut, the studio erupted. Producers rushed onto the set. Audience members were talking loudly amongst themselves. Amanda and Marcus immediately removed their microphones and walked off the set without another word to Lorraine. Lorraine stood alone in the middle of the stage, surrounded by chaos, trying to maintain the appearance of control. But it was clear to everyone present that something had shifted. The confident, commanding presence she usually projected was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like uncertainty. A senior producer approached her, his expression serious. "Lorraine, so we need to talk." "Not now," she said dismissively, waving him away. "Yes, now," he insisted. "That was completely inappropriate. We've had complaints already. Social media is exploding. This is a disaster." "Oh, please," Lorraine said, but her voice lacked conviction. "It'll blow over. These things always do." "I don't think so," the producer said quietly. "Not this time. You crossed a line, Lorraine. Multiple lines, actually." Backstage, Harry was surrounded by his team. They were asking if he was all right, offering water, expressing their outrage at what had just happened. But Harry just stood there, quietly, his arms crossed, staring at nothing in particular. "I should have known," he said finally. "The warning signs were there from the first question. I should have ended it then." "You handled it perfectly," one of his team members said. "You were dignified and composed. She was the one who looked bad." "It doesn't matter," Harry said. "It'll be spun. It always is. By tomorrow, headlines will say I threw a tantrum or couldn't handle scrutiny. The context will be lost." "Not this time," another team member said, holding up a phone. "People are defending you. They saw what happened. They saw how she treated you. You're not the villain in this story, Harry." Back on the set, Lorraine was attempting to regroup for the rest of the show, but her remaining panelists had been replaced with hastily called backups who clearly didn't want to be there. The atmosphere was tense and uncomfortable. When the cameras came back on, Lorraine's smile was forced. "Welcome back. As you saw, our guest decided to leave. Unfortunately, some people can't handle direct questions, but we'll move on." But they couldn't move on. Not really. The rest of the show was awkward and stilted. Every segment felt hollow. The audience was no longer engaged. They had come for entertainment, but what they had gotten was something darker. Something that left a bad taste. Throughout the remaining segments, Lorraine kept trying to justify what had happened. "I was simply asking the questions everyone wants answered," she said multiple times. "If people can't handle scrutiny, they shouldn't seek the spotlight." But no one was buying it. The substitute panelists gave non-committal nods. The audience remained quiet. The energy that usually filled the studio was completely gone. In the green room, the staff members were watching monitors and shaking their heads. "She's lost the room," one of them muttered. "This is bad." When the show finally ended, Lorraine walked off the set without her usual banter with the crew. She went straight to her dressing room and closed the door. For the first time in years, she looked uncertain, vulnerable even. Meanwhile, Harry had left the building entirely. He sat in the back of a car, looking out the window at the London streets passing by. His phone was buzzing constantly with messages of support, but he ignored them. He just wanted quiet. Space to process what had happened. "Are you okay?" his aide asked gently. Harry was quiet for a long moment before answering. "I'm disappointed. Not surprised, but disappointed. I actually thought this might be different. Now, I thought maybe we could have a real conversation about something that matters, about veterans who are struggling, about mental health support, about making a difference. Instead, it became about me. Again. It's always about me, even when I try to make it about something bigger." "You did make it about something bigger," his aide said. "By walking away with dignity, You showed that there's a line, that people shouldn't have to accept being treated that way, regardless of who they are. That's an important message. Harry nodded slowly, but didn't respond. He was thinking about all the veterans he had spoken to over the years, men and women who had shared their stories with him, who had trusted him to amplify their voices. He had gone on that show for them, and instead, it had turned into exactly the kind of circus he had been trying to avoid. Back at the studio, Amanda and Marcus were in a conference room with network executives. "We can't work with her anymore," Amanda was saying. "Not after what happened today. That wasn't journalism. That wasn't even good television. It was cruelty for the sake of cruelty." Marcus agreed. "I've defended Lorraine before, when people said she was too harsh. I always said she was just thorough. But today showed me something different. She wanted to hurt him. You could see it in her eyes. She enjoyed it." The executives exchanged glances. This was a problem. A big problem. Their star host had just burned bridges on live television, and now her own panelists were refusing to work with her. The social media reaction was overwhelmingly negative. Sponsors were already calling with concerns. In her dressing room, Lorraine was scrolling through her phone, reading the reactions. For every comment supporting her tough questioning, there were 10 criticizing her behavior. Words like bullying, cruel, and unprofessional kept appearing. Even journalists she respected were condemning the interview. She threw her phone onto the couch and stared at herself in the mirror. The confident woman who had walked onto that set a few hours ago now looked tired and uncertain. For the first time in her career, she wondered if she had gone too far. But her pride wouldn't let her admit it, even to herself. The story wasn't over. The ramifications would continue to unfold in the days and weeks to come. But in that moment, in that studio, everyone involved knew that something significant had happened. A line had been crossed. A breaking point had been reached. Harry's decision to walk away, to refuse to participate in his own humiliation, had sent a message. Not just about him, but about what people should and shouldn't have to tolerate. About the difference between holding someone accountable and tearing them down. About the importance of treating people, all people, with basic human dignity. The cameras had captured it all. Every barbed comment, every defensive response, every moment of escalating tension. And now the world could watch and decide for themselves what they had witnessed. Was it fearless journalism, or was it something much uglier? In the end, Harry had kept his composure. He had answered honestly. He had tried repeatedly to redirect the conversation to what mattered. And when it became clear that wasn't going to happen, he had done something that required more courage than staying and fighting. He had walked away, not in anger, not in defeat, but in recognition that some battles aren't worth fighting. Some conversations aren't worth having. Some platforms don't deserve your presence. As the day drew to a close and the studio emptied out, the story of what had happened was already spreading. Clips were being shared. Opinions were being formed. Lines were being drawn. But through it all, one thing remained clear. What was supposed to be a simple interview about charity work had instead become a defining moment that revealed the true character of everyone involved.